to my kitchen. Hey, today's going to be probably my favorite episode ever, for a few different reasons. When I was a kid, my mom would always, well, she'd ask me, what do you want, for dinner? And it was always the same thing. Cheese ravioli with sauce. My favorite meal always was, always will be. And as an adult, and a backyard grower, there's several things, we've done episodes on them, that I wait for every year. Fiore di zucca. When you put stuff in the ground, you just know when it comes up, you're going to have that incredible first time bang. Risi e bisi, we did an episode on. The rice and peas, when the spring peas come in. There's all sorts of things I wait for. This one is hands down the most intense. It's when the San Marzano romas are ripe on the vine. So it's going to be marinara sauce and cheese ravioli. And the reason that this is an extra special episode, because this will be the first time I'm making a ravioli with my own eggs, freshly laid from the girls outside. So I am completely pumped out of my mind for this dinner. It's Sunday, ravioli with sauce. And the first thing we're going to do is make our sauce. So let's go check it out. All right, let's bring the basket in. Here they come. San Marzano romas. Yeah, nice little pot of sauce, ripe and ready to go. Let's pull them. These perfectly ripe romas for our sauce. Oh, these are beauties. Look at that one. Color. Got a nice pot of sauce out here. All right, I'll get all of these. We'll bring them into the kitchen. What are you guys doing? You ain't coming in here. They love tomatoes. They just got a big Goldie chopped up. All right, and while we're out here, let's get a couple of nice basil tops for our sauce. I think 3 tops is good. Just going to put those in whole. Let them simmer. I've been saving the seeds for these for years now and growing them every year. So these are, I'll take seeds out of these. You take like the healthiest one or 2 and get your seeds for next year. So I already rinsed these. I took off the blossom end. And what I'm doing now, as I said, these will be on the ground. So I'll put those on the windowsill. They'll ripen. But this is an indeterminate variety of tomato, which means they don't all get ripe at the same time, which is beautiful because they'll just keep coming. This is the first batch. More are out there, tons more. So I'm only taking the ripest specimens. Even that one I might leave on the counter. Look at that orangey kind of tinge. I only want the deep red super ripe ones for this sauce. Some I like to peel and core out and make filetti di pomodori, like for clam sauce. There's a million things to do with these. They're awesome. So I think that's going to make a pretty nice pot of sauce. The rest I'll put aside. They'll continue to ripen. And maybe one more. This guy's pretty red. So is this one. Alright, nice little pot of sauce. Remember, I got the basil. And I also grabbed a little bit of this oregano. That's key in a marinara sauce. Let's go over here and get a nice head of garlic. There's our sauce right there. Garlic, aglio, extra virgin olive oil, pomodori di San Marzano, basilica, and just that little touch of oregano. Oh, almost forgot one more thing. Just a touch of pepperoncini. There's our sauce. Let's get started. I am so pumped. Alright, I've got a pot of water coming to a boil on the stove. First thing I'm going to do with these is take my nice ripe Roma, and in the bottom here, I'm going to take a knife and just make a little X, alright? We want to get the skins off of these, step number one. Just a little X in the bottom. Okay? Put them in this bowl. One more, and then I'll do the rest of them, and I'll meet you by the boiling water. Just a little X in the bottom. It's going to help that skin loosen up. We're just going to blanch them just for a few seconds. Alright, I'll finish up, and we'll see you at the stove. Water's almost up to a boil. Got my tomatoes ready. They're all X'd out on that bottom end. And what I did is I took two of what I thought were one of the nicest specimens, and I just cut them in half and scooped out because I want the seeds, okay? I'm soaking them right now. I won't go into this. We're gonna do a whole episode on saving the seeds. It's coming up in a few weeks as all the tomatoes really get ripe towards the end of the summer. But, so I took two of them. So I have, let me start with those. I have the halves, and I'll just drop those in first. Where's that other cut half? That's around here somewhere. It'll find its way in. So I'm just talking seconds really. I don't want to cook these tomatoes. I want to loosen the skin. Alright? So one by one. This one had a little blossom end rot, not bad, so I just cut it away. So I don't know, 30, 60 seconds. You see? You'll see the skin already getting loose on the edge. So that's all you need. Just trying to coax that skin off. Quick blanch. Beautiful. They're coming right off. I can see it. There's the other half. Alright, I'm going to blanch away, and then we'll be back at the board where we started. See you in a few. Tomatoes are done. They're cooling down. While I was waiting for them to cool off, I sliced up my garlic, but I held one off. I want to show you. I get off on this thing. Every single thing in this sauce is fresh out of the ground. Look at this garlic. I don't even know if you can see it. The lighting in here is terrible. That thing is glistening with juice. The right angle. You'll see all that garlic juice on them. These things, there you go, look at that. You're not getting that in store-bought garlic. These things are unbelievable. The aroma. So there we go. Now I can do my tomatoes. These sliced garlic will sit, and for this sauce, sometimes you've seen me just chop the clove and throw it in and then take it out. For this marinara sauce with these fresh tomatoes, I actually slice it and I'm going to leave it in. Slice it pretty thin. I mean, I'm not fanatical like Paulie and Goodfellas in jail, right? With the single edge razor blade. Get my little compost. And let's take the tomatoes one by one. And you'll see from blanching them, done. Skin just pops right off. Put it in the compost bin. Piece of cake, man. Right off. Alright, let me finish these up. It's a little on the messy side, but if you're not having fun, you're not having fun. I love it. I'll finish them up. The reason I go away is, number one, you don't have to watch me do all this. You got stuff going on in your life. But more importantly, as I've told you before, the tunes get blasted. And when I'm making this sauce, this food, it's all Rat Pack. Louis Prima, Frank, Dean. Alright, I'll be back when all these tomatoes are peeled. These romas are prepped and ready for the sauce pot. I start salivating. I kept one aside just to show you what I do with them. So they were peeled, right? You saw that. I'm telling you, the X, the blanch, that skin came right off. So I just cut them in half like so. And then I use my thumb to get the seeds and that little core out, and this little, usually a little green stem at the top. I'm telling you, man, best tools in your kitchen. Just keep them clean throughout the process. Seeds going in the compost heap. Take the little stem end off, and then what I do is, this you heard me say before, this would be filetti di pomodori, fillets, right? I put those in my white clam sauce. It makes it maracchiata, they call it, like a pink sauce. I just float a few of those in. You can put those on salads. Filetti di pomodori. So I cut those first, and then crosswise. There you go. Let's go get a pot on the stove. I'm so psyched. Alright, here we are. Let's get the flame on. Sun just came out. It's beautiful out. 11:15 a.m. Rainy and then gray morning. A little extra virgin olive oil. Let's take our garlic and pepperoncini. Here again. Just a slight sizzle. I like to start with the oil almost cold for my garlic and bring it up slow. Get a spoon here. Coax that garlic. Alright, so the idea with the garlic again is to toast it. Do not burn it. You burn it, you're done. You're starting over. It gets bitter in about 5 seconds. You just want it to get that light goldeny. I think I'm about there. This is the moment I wait for every year, folks. In with the tomatoes. Now I can bring the heat up a little. And these are so chunky, they're not like the canned San Marzanos where you have a lot of that broth and juice. So you could use wine, white wine. I do have a little Montepulciano, but with the garden stuff, I want it as pure as possible. So I'm going to add a little bit of water. Kind of acts as a binder to help cook them down. You can use water to go as thick or thin as you want on this sauce. Alright? A little sale, salt, so that nice fine Italian sea salt. Pinch of that. Don't overdo it. Over salted sauce is a bummer. You'll taste it at the end. And now the oregano. I chopped it up a little. Stems and all. This is the top of that oregano plant. The stems are tender. And you don't use a lot. I'll go with a touch more water because I can tell by looking at it the way it's going to cook down. Okay. This is the beginning tasting. Of course, it's not a sauce yet. It's just everything in the pot. But it'll give us an idea of the flavor of those tomatoes. Oh man. Dude. That was the collective dude. But dude knows who dude is. Okay, last but not least, I'm just going to put the basil in whole. That'll come out. Because when we serve the ravioli, we'll have fresh basil on it. This will just infuse nicely. And then I'll pull it out. So there you go. San Marzano Roma, a little marinara. It's starting to come up to a boil. And now what I'll do is I'll lower my heat to a gentle simmer. Marinara sauce, canned San Marzanos, 20 minutes. I'm going to let this cook maybe a half hour because we have the solid tomatoes off the vine. We want to cook them down a little into a nice sauce. So the time is less important than the result. Keep an eye on it. Give it a stir every now and then. We'll check in on it when it's done. Let's go make some ricotta. I got 8 cups of milk on the stove here. over medium heat. And I want to bring that up slowly without scorching it to 185 degrees. I'm going to add in half a teaspoon of salt. And I'm going to keep stirring this as it heats up. I'm just going to keep checking the temp as I go. I want to come to 185. While that milk's coming up to temp, I'm going to take my lemon. You can use white vinegar too. But I have this lemon. There's nothing else really on the agenda. So before it starts getting funky out on the counter, let's use it for something valuable. We're going to want 3 tablespoons. Alright, bingo, 185. We're there. So I'm going to turn down the heat. 3 tablespoons. Now I'm going to take a fork and just sort of agitate. You remember the tale of Little Miss Muffet, right? You'll get the curds and you'll get the whey. About 2 minutes on this part. Here's your curds. That's going to be the regatta when we're done. Turn the heat down even a little more. I don't want that boiling over. Keep it agitated. We're getting our separation, which is nice. Eating her curds and whey. I don't know about the along came a spider part, but along came some house flies. That back door open. Okay, it's been a couple of minutes. I can see the curds separating from the whey. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to turn off the heat, put a cover on this, and I'm going to set my timer for 20 minutes. While we wait on the regatta, let's make some pasta. So there's a million different ways to make fresh pasta. And listen, in the last episode I said that I only keep bread flour in the house. I do like to use a little all-purpose for the pasta. Again, sometimes I get there's some great mills around here. Sometimes I go to Mother Earth's and get the nice milled flours. But King Arthur, when I'm in the store, it's a quality product. Now, some people just use all-purpose flour. I'm going with half and half semolina and all-purpose. What I found, just from my own experiments and whatnot, is the semolina gives a little bite, a little tooth, a little bit of structure and strength to the pasta. Which, if I was just rolling out tagliatelle or something, wouldn't be an issue. But with the ravioli, I like to stretch it kind of thin, but it's got to hold the structure so it doesn't fall apart when you drop it in the boiling water. So half and half. Semolina all-purpose flour, okay? Let's get it out on the board. I'm just making a small batch. It's Sunday. I gotta go to work in the morning. I don't want to be up all night rolling out pasta. Just enough for a few ravioli. This is mainly to enjoy those incredible Roma tomatoes. So a few ravioli will be fine. Now I'm going to use my cup, make a little well in there, right? Now I am completely pumped. I've made a lot of pasta in my life. This is the first time I'm using my own fresh eggs. Laid between yesterday and today and this morning. I'm going to crack them right into the well. I'm using 3 eggs to the 2 cups. That's another thing. You'll see different amounts. I'm going with, these aren't giant eggs. Some people only use the yolks. Some mix the yolks and the whites. I'm going with 3 whole eggs with this pasta. Now, here's the trick. Start breaking the eggs. And as you start breaking the eggs, be gentle. You don't want this spilling out. Bring in a little flour, right? Use a fork for this because you can use the end of the fork tines to just pull in a little bit of flour. Just takes a little bit of practice. I've broken the wall. You break the wall, you're scrambling. Whoop, see that? You don't want that spilling out before you get a dough. Once you get enough flour in, the consistency will hold. See, it's already starting to solidify. Whoops! Breach! We have a breach! It's alright, we're going to be good. It's already starting to become macaroni. See, now as that starts happening, you can get a little bolder pulling in that flour. I think we're going to be okay. Now, once you have enough flour in there and starts to become a dough, you can dispense with the fork and start using your hands. Because now, what you want to do is really bring it all together. Flour and eggs. I'm not using any salt. Some people will put a little olive oil, water. This is my first time with these eggs. I want to treat them as simply as possible. Give it a little knead. Yeah, perfect. I think the 3 eggs is going to work. You know, look at the nice color of that between the semolina, these rich, fresh yolks. All right, it's coming together into a nice pasta dough. What I'm going to do now, I'm going to take it, make a nice tight ball out of it. You can wrap it in plastic wrap, or what I do, save some time, I just have these bags left over from shopping. And just going to let that rest 20 minutes up to an hour. This Sunday supper is starting to come together. Back to the ricotta. Okay, our ricotta is curdled. It's been sitting at least 20 minutes. I'm going to take it and ladle it carefully into my mesh bag. The curds will stay in the bag. Again, technically you would use cheesecloth. This is actually working perfect. I like this. This may just be my ricotta bag going forward, that's all. It's doubled, it's folded twice. So the whey is going right through, and the curds are staying in the bag. So I'll finish up, and then this is just going to sit. The longer you let it sit, the drier it'll get. So I want this to drain out and get pretty dry because it's going to be the ravioli filling. You could use it wetter for some other reasons. Cheesecake or something like that. But I'm going to let this really sit and drain out and dry out, and then we'll have a good look at it. Okay, that's it. It's finished draining. Just going to give it a little push with the spoon to move some of the liquid. Let it drain through. And then we're going to just let this sit. Let me sample it. Quality control, very important. This stuff is the bomb. All right, we're good. This is going to be so good in that ravioli. This here is my pasta station. I love it. Normally it's my kitchen counter, or as I call it, the board. I do most of my prep up here. You know, my knives are over there in the left corner. I keep salt. And then when I'm going to make pasta, everything comes off. The machine goes on, and you got plenty of space to work with. So let's go. And then you need to get all your tools out and ready. Your machine. If you're using one, you could use a pasta rolling pin. Get a couple of clean towels to hold the sheets. There's our rested dough. Little all-purpose flour for working with. And we're ready to go. Oh wait, I forgot one critical implement you can't do without when you're making the pasta. Un bicchiere di vino. Okay? Very important. Let's get to work. Okay, our dough is well rested. Let's take it out of the bag. Feels great. Nice. Oh yeah, this is going to stretch out beautifully. Nice consistency, not too wet, not too dry. I did leave one tool out, not quite as important as the glass of vino, but because you could just use a knife, but I like my dough scraper. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by making 4 pieces, okay? You can only roll so much at a time. This is where the towels come in handy, or actually our bag. Let's use our bag. And you don't want these drying out while you're working. So we'll use our bag. I'll put these 3 pieces off to the side. Now get your flour. Flour the board where you're going to stretch it out. And I told you, very important. We start on number 1. There's 6 numbers on here on how thick it is. So we start on number 1. Press this piece of dough a little. Now this first part, you do number 1 a bunch of times. This is kneading it, you know, working the gluten. Gluten, what an evil word. That evil gluten. I don't know, what, half dozen times or so. This softens the dough up. Makes it nice and malleable. Now see, adding that semolina was the way to go, in my opinion. First of all, look at the color from those fresh eggs. Also, what you can do at the flour stage, when we made the pasta, put that well with the eggs in it. You can add a little boiled spinach if you want green pasta. I was going to do it with the Swiss chard. I had pulled some green leaves and some red leaves, which I think would have been classic. You know, the 2 different colored doughs. But I don't know. It's cheese ravioli. Something about the purity of it. I gotta be 8 years old again when I eat this. Number 2. Now the little bit of flour that's on this board is going into the dough as well. Number 3, you don't want to overdo that. Number 4. Now, number 5. It's getting long and it's getting stretchy. So sometimes what I do, if I had a huge table, I'd just let it run. But since I have, you know, limited amount of length here, I cut that in half and I'll go to number 5. And I have done number 6 on here, but usually for the ravioli, sometimes for the green lasagna, I'll go to 6, make them like sheets of paper. But for the ravioli, I stop at 5, okay? I mean, that's pretty thin. Look at that. But you don't want them to break open when you put them in the boiling water and they're filled with that beautiful filling. So onto the towel. Now let's go number 5 on the next piece. Okay. Onto the towel. And then I'm going to take out this part of the towel and cover it so they don't get completely dried out. I'm going to finish up. I'll do the rest of the pasta and then we'll make some ravioli. You guys have no idea how freaking pumped I am right now. Let's do this. I'm super fired up. The ricotta is perfect for ravioli. I just let it sit in there and drain. It dried out. What I'm going to do though, it's so good. Instead of using it all for these ravioli, I'm stealing some. I'll have it with honey on a dessert. Fresh ricotta, we just made it. Just ran outside, a little chopped fresh parsley, and I put 2 little tiny basil leaves in there just because I was grabbing the parsley, it was next to it. Why not? It's flavor. But mainly parsley. You could use Parmigiano Reggiano, Locatelli, Romano. I happen to have in the house right now, Grana Padano. So that's what's going in mine. Grate that in, nice and fine. Fantastic flavor. Just a touch of nutmeg. Literally grains. That's a strong flavor. You want it so subtle in the background when you don't notice it, it adds this thing that you don't even know what's going on, you just know you love it. Salt and pepper. Pinch of salt. Black pepper. Now on occasion, and I do have some, I think I'm going to do it. This is not necessarily a traditional thing, but I'm going to put on a little of this fresh mozzarella. I'm going to grate it, just like I did the grana. And what I find with this is just a little bit. It's almost like we're going to put that egg in. The egg is the glue, it's the binder. But also, the fresh mozzarella, if you put a little in, I find it'll melt in and it just gives this creaminess inside the ravioli. So let's try this. Taste it for salt, etc. Because we're going to put the egg in. But first, check it. That's pretty good. Oh yeah, see that little bit of nutmeg. Good to go. Now, I'm going to crack my egg in here, whip it up. I'm getting so much happiness out of these chickens right now. Entertainment, free entertainment, no cover charge. The eggs, forget about it. Now, this is our binder. I'm not going to use it all. For one reason, you want to be careful how much you wet down this ricotta. You want it to hold shape inside the ravioli. But also, I'm leaving a little egg behind. And then I'm going to add water to it. And that's going to be our glue for putting the ravioli sheets together. So, you know, keep an eye on how wet you want this. You want it to be able to hold its shape. But you also want a little, you know, creaminess to it. So that's looking pretty good. Just another touch. That should do it. Alright, I rinsed up my hands really well. Clean. Dusted the board a little so that this pasta doesn't stick. And what's happened is in the interim, while we were doing the ricotta and everything, this pasta has dried just a hair. So that's perfect. It's easy to work with. It's not going to tear. I think what I'll do here for the first batch is make a few round ones. So take about a teaspoon. Alright, 5 of them. Let's tighten it down a little. Now for this first batch I'm going to use the round cutter. So I'll use the other sheet. Here's that egg. I added a little water. Just use your finger. You could use a brush. Alright, there's a little glue for the ravioli. This could also just be water, by the way. But the egg helps. Take my second sheet, throw it over the top, and then gently press down around the filling. Get it pretty tight. Press your pasta sheets together, particularly where that glue is, right? Get them to stick. Take my cutter. There's one. Now I'm tightening them down. I want to make sure that's a complete seal on that, so that doesn't come apart when I put it in the boiling water. And we're going to let these dry up. So what I like to do, take a little sheet pan. In this case I'll use the semolina. And just place them on the pan. Alright, let me finish the round and then I'll show you the other cutter. I'd already prepped this sheet for you guys. Put my filling on, put my egg wash on. Here's my top sheet. Press it. This is the other cutter. So these I'm making more square. See what I'm doing? Squaring these up. And now I've got this. Okay? So give yourself a little lip, a little shelf. But I don't like too much extra pasta around my filling. Yeah. That's a beauty right there. Into my semolina tray. I'll do one more and then I'll finish up. Going a little closer right here so I don't have to make more than the 1 cup. Ravioli. Let me finish these up, and then we're ready to cook, basically. The moment of yum has arrived. This was an all-day process. So worth it. Alright, here's our ravioli. Who's more psyched than me right now? My favorite dish ever in the universe. And this is my first batch of pasta ever made with my own eggs from the girls. I'm going to do like a sampler pack. Little potpourri, if you will. Take 2 rounds. This is one of the square that I folded the dough over. These are the square that I put the sheet on top. I don't know. Let me start with a half dozen. I'm probably going to eat all these tonight. I can't stop with these freaking things. 6 ravioli. I'll start with that. Nah, give me 8. Alright. Start with that. Got some water coming to a boil on the stove. So let's slide the camera over yonder. Water's at a good rolling boil. In we go. Now these only take a minute or 2. Fresh pasta. Got our sauce on the back from those ripe San Marzano romas right off the vine. Full disclosure, I filmed the sauce portion yesterday. Okay, everything else was done today. And it's been in the refrigerator. I'm just heating it back up, which is, I say that full disclosure to keep the honesty in the show, but also it makes the sauce, you know, sauce, anything like this, a pot of chili, it's always better the next day. Now basically when they float, they're done, right? Knock a bunch of the water off. Take some of this sauce. Not going to overdo it. I want to taste the ravioli too. Let's dress them up at the board. Okay, these things don't need a heck of a lot. They have that sauce on them. There's a fly around in here. If it comes through the camera frame, so be it. As long as it doesn't land in my ravioli and sauce, it's not going to bother me. I'm going to pop a little basil on, tear it up. I always like to give a little garni. Eat first with eyes, grasshopper. Alright, this was my childhood birthday meal. But this is about as Scratchola as it gets. So this actually proves it. You don't have to die to go to heaven. It's not fair. Thanks for coming to my kitchen. Yes, I changed my shirt from earlier. Yes, my hair's wet. I did not take a shower. I went out to let the chickens in for the night. It's supposed to be a hurricane or some kind of wicked storm. It's just rain right now. We haven't even seen any high winds. Let's see what happens overnight. We'll catch you for the next episode. I'm going to sit down and enjoy these ravioli. And there's one thing that's critical with that dish. Un bicchiere di vino. Saluti. Thank you. The raviolis were delicious.